Ladies and gentlemen, we are live! Welcome to today's webinar, Press 1 for a Better Customer Experience, which looks at the value of the technology refresh. This webinar is being brought to you by Call Center IQ, SAP, and ECENTA, and we're very thrilled to tackle this extremely relevant topic today. Now, one of the things that, there are so many challenges that take place in the contact center, so many things that threaten to risk your customer experience, make life difficult for your agents, make life difficult for your business. But so many of them stem from having, the wrong technology in place, having technology that does not properly speak to each other, having technology that is not mindful of what's going on in today's marketplace, that does not take into account the real challenges and real concerns of today's agents and customers. Naturally, therefore, the fix is with a technology refresh, when you rethink, when you start to adapt what technology you're sourcing, how you're using it, and how it relates to your contact center challenges, you can overcome a lot of those challenges and actually deliver a better agent experience, a better customer experience, a more efficient operation, and ultimately greater business results. We're going to walk through that today. We're not just going to do so by talking about some great features of a technology or something, but really look at a case study with Keysight Technologies, demonstrating how, with the right combination of strategy and application of solutions, you're able to achieve these ideal results, how call times went down, how customer satisfaction went up, and how the customer experience ultimately was as rejuvenated as the technology was. We have several speakers with us today, so let's begin by getting to know them. A second, the slide, and here we go. So first of all, for representing Keysight, we have Larry Lopez, who's their Senior IT Program Manager, 28 years of relevant experience here, and what's very valuable about his background is that he's actually managed some key business transformation projects as it relates to front end and back end IT. So really, what he's able to do is he has this understanding of what is required of actually overhauling and rethinking and revitalizing your organizational technology. It's not just a case of he has a little bit of call center experience or he knows how to do some systems. He knows about the true organizational transformation. So Larry, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much.
We also have Sebastian Alvarez, also from Keysight, who is their front office solution architect with 9 years of consulting experience, and he has specific experience in the SAP Contact Center environment. And for what we're speaking about today, you can't have someone who's, of course, experience that's more relevant than that. So certainly really thrilled to see what Sebastian's going to bring to the table. How's everything going, Sebastian?
Everything good, thanks.
And then, to sort of look at, I think, to broaden the experiential thing, screen disappeared real quick. Something happened to the slides there, but to go through with us, to walk through a broader stroke of the technology, really look at a lot of capabilities, a lot of core challenges facing today's contact centers and today's businesses. We have Sebastian Jungels of ECENTA. So Sebastian, how are you doing as well?
Doing fantastic. Thank you, Brian.
What I'll do is I'll walk you guys through today's agenda. So what we're going to start off doing, of course, is, none of this is relevant without context. If you don't have an understanding of, what the background was, what the challenges were, then knowing what the results were really means nothing. So we're going to have a quick intro to, what Keysight and ECENTA are all about, understanding, what their challenges were, what their businesses, were looking for, and what their goals were, which I think enables you to really truly appreciate what happened, what their progress was, and sort of see if you can possibly mirror their own results in your organization and the validity of the lessons learned. Additionally, we then we'll walk through ECENTA as well to sort of learn how they engage with the SAP Contact Center environment. After getting to know the SAP Contact Center platform a little bit, we're then going to walk through the case study. So we're going to look at the implementation for Keysight, what their core objectives were. We're going to learn, the scope, what they were really trying to achieve. We're going to, what their ultimate goals were, what some challenges for their customers and agents were, and how they hope to conquer those. And then, as they conquered them, not only what the results were, but what lessons they learned in doing so. So we're going to be actually, look at not only how can we, mirror these results and how can we achieve the same increase in productivity and efficiency and satisfaction, but also what they learned to better maximize those results in the future. So if they were to do another technology refresh, or in the case of all you listening, if you were to do one, you'd be able to take those best practices into account. And of course, at the end, I'll be asking questions throughout, but we want to make time for your questions. So feel free to submit those on the console on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll reserve some time at the end to walk through those questions. So first I want to pass it over to our Keysight folks so they can sort of let us know what they're all about, who their company is, and why they're a relevant case study for today's webinar.
Excellent. Thanks so much for that intro. So back in 1939, we started out as an electronic measurement company, and throughout the years, we morphed into a significant computer-related company. In 1999, the decision was made to split us apart, and the electronic measurement and life science business went off and became Agilent Technologies, and HP retained the server portion, printers, and PC areas of the company. And then again, in 2014, the decision was made to split the company again, and Life Science maintained the Agilent Technologies brand name, and we spun off to Keysight Technologies, reverting back to our roots as an independent company focused 100% on the electronic measurement industry. So it's been a significant journey for me personally the last 28 years, having gone through both HP, Agilent, and now Keysight. And now we're morphing our company into a much broader scope, changing from a hardware-centric to a software-centric company. And as we do that, we needed some flexibility with how to manage our customers better. So let's go to the next slide. And then go ahead and click one more. So I'm not going to spend a tremendous amount of time on this particular side, but these are the industries in which we currently operate, focusing on simulation, prototyping, and manufacturing, and optimizing customer solutions throughout that process. Again, you can see the most critical areas are cloud devices, smartphones, a huge area for us, avionics, surveillance, etc. Let's go to the next slide. And the purpose of this slide is really to show the scope and size of our company, and more importantly, the number of locations we are located in, and the challenges that we faced when deploying the solution. And at the time we selected the contact center solution, while it was not the largest deployment for the solution ever, it was the most complex, and the number of locations that were impacted by the solution itself. Also moving from a standard telephony environment to voice over IP had never been tried in our company, or the complexity within SAP. So we were a true case study for this deployment, and it went very well, but we did face some challenges that we'll share with you here in a moment. And I encourage everyone, to find more information about Keysight, just visit keysight.com.
Thanks very much for that overview. Certainly, I think some impressive context there as far as the scope of this implementation, and things that, obviously we're thrilled to get the lessons learned as we go through this webinar. But before we get there, I want to give Sebastian a chance to walk us through his organization, what their touch is with SAP and what their relevance is to, today's webinar.
Thanks, Brian. Also from my side, very good morning or good day, depending on where you're dialing in from. My name is Sebastian Youngolds. I'm a Customer Engagement and Commerce Architect and Business Development Manager with ECENTA. It's my personal and professional privilege to be hosting this live webinar on behalf of SAP and ECENTA today. Special thanks, again, go to our featured guest speakers. We just heard Larry Lopez talking about Keysight Technologies, giving us an organization, their scope, and so forth, as well as to Sebastian Alvarez, who's going to be talking about the technical side of the implementation, and we're also going to learn about some key challenges that Keysight have been facing, and we will also learn how they have been addressed during the deployment of SAP Contact Center. Now, ECENTA played a major role during this initiative, and I'm really honored to introduce ECENTA as an SAP-only partner and specialist in the customer engagement and commerce space. Our company was founded in 2000 by two former SAP employees, and ever since, our clear focus was on customer-facing applications best based on SAP technology. Primarily, back in the days, this was SAP Customer Relationship Management, the traditional on-premise environment. Ever since our DNA, so to speak, has been programmed within that customer engagement space. Well, nowadays, we've been extending our service portfolio, concentrating on SAP CEC, again, customer engagement and commerce solutions such as Contact Center, which we're going to learn about in today's webinar, SAP Cloud for Customer and CRM, but also as well as solutions built into the hybrid stack such as hybrid commerce, marketing, and billing. We're headquartered in Waldorf, Germany, right on SAP's beautiful campus, and we currently maintain 9 locations around the globe that enables us to support our clients and customers with global deliveries and rollouts. In North America, we're headquartered in Dallas, Texas, and we also have an office in the beautiful San Francisco Bay Area and Palo Alto, as well as in Vancouver, Canada. In EMEA, we have several offices as well as in Asia Pacific. As of today, we currently employ around 200 highly specialized consultants that are full-time employees of ECENTA, something that we're really extremely proud of, that we're not a body shop or using a lot of contractors when we deploy SAP applications in the space. Our relationship with SAP, not only the geographical one based on our headquarters in Waldorf, but we also have multiple aspects of those partnerships with SAP. So we're a co-development partner for Contact Center integration. We delivered a joint project with SAP and a customer of ours for the first global CTI integration between Cloud for Customer and Contact Center. We're a co-implementation partner. That means that we jointly deliver complex projects, SAP and ECENTA together. A co-innovation partner, so we help to further improve the applications, especially in the CRM space and Cloud for Customer. And we're also a VAR partner, a so-called value-added reseller, being able to provide, the full end-to-end life cycle from licenses provision to the deployment of the application as part of the project life cycle and the support thereafter. Next slide, please. Perfect. I mentioned that we're focusing on the CEC space, right? SAP Cloud for Customers, CRM on-premise, Contact Center, and the hybrid applications. We're also providing other application areas that naturally complement the CEC applications. One being, for instance, in the real-time reporting and predictive analytics space based on SAP HANA. We have SAP Business Intelligence, Business Objects, and Lumira, the front end for beautiful analytics and reporting capabilities. Also in the mobility space, which is a huge and hot topic these days, SAP UI5, Cyclo, the Fiori technology as the new SAP UI paradigm, but also another cloud product that we provide services for, the SuccessFactors on the HCM and HR side. If you want to integrate your different applications, integration technologies just like HCI, HANA Cloud integration, process integration, and process orchestration let your SAP applications talk to other SAP applications or to your legacy environments and other third-party software. And we're also focusing on, within the CRM on-premise side, on rental and leasing solutions that we deploy. Now with that, I want to move forward to the Contact Center piece. Brian, next slide. Perfect. Now let's talk a little bit about today's customers. The world of customer service has changed, and we know that great products will not only make a customer loyal. In fact, research and recent case studies that have been carried out show that customers are willing to change a vendor or supplier to get a better service and experience. Due to the fact that they're looking for that overall excellent service experience, customers are open to change, and companies will need to address this fact by providing what customers need, when they need it, and also offer different multiple ways of how customers can consume information and service. We're going to talk about how the call center plays an important role and how we can improve the overall customer experience in just a few minutes. There's overall leads to a more empowered customer, where in the past there was only single or very few channels, technology nowadays offers an omni-channel customer service experience to engage with your customers like never before.
And so what would you say, Sebastian, really are the key, because we, obviously talk about customers have more options, they're willing to switch based on service levels, and they, they're empowered to do so, but, what would you say really they're looking for? What are the key demands that a contact center needs to be able to fulfill?
Right. That's a great question. If you go forward to the next slide, Brian, I'll tackle that. So one of my favorite examples is, how do you communicate with a company and get a certain service that you're requesting for? So today, 88%, which is almost 9 out of 10 organizations, they already offer that omni-channel service experience. So what is the differentiator? One example that I like to give is, you ever called into a hotline and then you provide your account number, or they determine your phone number on the fly, and then you navigate yourself through seemingly endless different options through the IVR, and then finally you get to that agent, and the first thing that you're being asked is, what's your name, what's your account number, so that they can identify your customer record. Well, that's not really how it should work. It's, at the end of the day, the superior level of quality of service that customers are expecting and demanding. And it doesn't really matter how they communicate with you, especially in this case, is it through phone, email, and chat options, and when they want to communicate with you. So overall, this really is key to providing that overall customer experience, to have the information ready to either your call center agents or directly to your customers if you offer them other ways of communicating and providing self-service options to your customers.
And so then, obviously the curiosity point here is, what does that mean as far as a burden for contact centers? We know what customers are looking for, and we know what the customer experience must entail, but what does today's contact center need to look like?
Right. There has to be multiple options, multiple facets to that, right? One thing is that you want to be able to get your customers to the right agent with the right skills, agents that are available to take your calls, and ideally provide this information right at the get-go when the service center agent is actually taking your call. And on this slide, as we're looking at right now, this is basically a high-level overview of the SAP Contact Center solution. So what does this mean? How do you really boost your experience? And I promise this is the last slide before we dive right into the topic and let Larry and Sebastian talk about their experience of implementing Contact Center. So let's take a closer look at this real quick. First of all, it's tightly integrated within the CEC solution suite and offers the aforementioned CTI, computer telephony integration capabilities for your environments. In our case, this would be Cloud for Customer, CRM on-premise, or even your SAP ECC backend that enables your system to do the so-called screen pops, right? You want to identify the customer as soon as you accept the call, or ideally before you are actually talking to the customer. In order to do that, you retrieve recent customer interaction and the service history that offers real-time routing and presence information to your call center agents. So you're actually very, informed about your customer and ideally about the, open service requests that might be in place before you actually talk to your customers. Now, this is going to help to better serve your customers right from the get-go. And personally, I'm always feeling in good hands when I'm calling into my preferred airline, and they already know that I am calling, that my upcoming flight is next week to Dallas, and if they're asking if I want to change that particular flight. Now, Contact Center provides multiple communication channels. We're basically differentiating between synchronous channels, for instance, your voice or phone and chat communication channels, but also asynchronous, email, SMS, fax, or even letters. And the nice thing about this, they can get pushed into your call center application just like a call, so that there's no cherry picking, and your call center can focus on working these customer cases and requests as they have been recorded in the first place. SAP Contact Center also comes with an IVR that offers powerful functionality to understand better why your customers are calling. So you can make changes to the IVR on the fly. Sebastian is going to talk to that in just a minute. And then route that interaction to the correct department, to the right agent based on current availability, skills, and so on. The built-in reporting features also let you better understand important KPIs. Also this we're going to learn in just a minute from Larry around call handling times, call resolution statistics, and so on, so you can better monitor, refine, and improve your call center operations. Now with that, I'd like to hand it over back to Brian so we can take a look at the contact center implementation at Keysight Technologies and get a little bit of insight of their experience of implementing SAP Contact Center. Brian?
Thank you very much, Sebastian. So right now what we know is we know what today's customer is looking for. We know what today's contact center needs to entail. But what we need to figure out now is, how we really were able to apply, how that was able to be applied to the Keysight environment. We know what their company was, what their ambitions are, what their history was. But what did that mean for their ability to engage customers? What did that mean for their ability to manage their contact center? Those are the questions that were top of mind as they were pursuing this technology refresh. And that's what we're going to walk through as we go through today's case study. So I want to start off, Larry, by first asking you, what necessitated the need for a change? What was maybe not going right, or what were some of the concerns you had? What needed to happen within your contact center?
Sorry, thank you for that. I was taking myself off mute. So here's essentially what was happening during the time when we were making our decisions on what to deploy. We had obsolete technology which did not support voice over IP and was no longer supported. Approximately 32 PBX environments were impacted, which meant we had a large number of individuals managing a very important part of the customer engagement. We also had a high customer satisfaction risk due to hardware failure, meaning that because these systems were so obsolete, it was difficult, if not impossible, to get parts if we needed those to be fixed at any point in time. And then a lack of integration capabilities and flexibility of our rapidly changing business environment, meaning everyone's business morphs over time. Calls need to be routed or rerouted differently. It could be weeks, it could be months in between, or it's very rapidly changing, and for us, that's exactly where we were. But what we found is that it was difficult to get all of those changes made in all of the different PBX environments, and we needed a tool in which to help make this easier functionality for us to manage holistically. So why was this important? Clearly to enable growth. So in addition to those things that I mentioned about being able to make changes very quickly, we knew as we grew as a company, we would acquire other companies to bring in under our product offerings. Our ability to be able to bring those new offices online quicker underneath our umbrella was important. So that's one thing that we looked at. Oops, let me go back. Back one slide.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. That was weird.
There we go. Okay. We also wanted to service our customer base faster and more efficiently. As it was previously mentioned, I personally, when I call various different places that I do business with, one thing that bothers me the most is if I have to press multiple times, 1 to get to this point, 2 to get to this point, 3 to get to this point. That level of frustration translates into the customers we do business with today, and we wanted to be able to maximize the IVR functionality so that we could get customers to the right place faster, more efficiently, so we would be able to resolve their issues, get them off the phone, and let them to, go about their day. We also wanted the centralized infrastructure so that we, in the business and IT, had much more control of the environment. Clearly, with 32 PBX systems throughout the world that we were trying to manage, made that a bit difficult. And agents anywhere. So this is super important for us because some of our contact centers are located in geographies that are susceptible to weather conditions, snow, heavy rain, even cases where we need to shut down contact centers because of it's dangerous for people to get to work, especially in snowstorms. What this solution allows us to do is have agents anywhere. So if we have a laptop at their home, they have connectivity. we're able to continue running our business anywhere where we have Wi-Fi connectivity. So how are we going to do this? We needed to provide relevant information to our end users at the time of the customer interaction in order to quickly serve their needs. And by this, the pop-ups that are available in the solution allow us to achieve this much faster and save time, not only for our agents, but for the customers. We wanted an easy user interface with flexibility of managing call center operations. So Sebastian will walk us through in a little bit what that means for us. It's being able to move agents into different queues that are backlogged if some of their queues are light on call volume. It's the ability for a manager to move people around so that we maximize not only agents, but maximize customer time spent on the phone. And again, state-of-the-art technology. Again, voice over IP was fairly new at the time we were deploying this for our company. Not something that we had engaged with before, and again, the scope of what we were trying to do with SAP and Contact Center was far greater than they had done before. So we took a very conservative approach on how we deployed it, and we're going to talk about that here in a moment.
Yeah, so that actually kind of, certainly preempted, my next sort of line of questioning a little bit. But I'm really curious, because at the beginning of the webinar as well as just now, you really emphasized the scope that, not only did you have those challenges, which were significant challenges, and also you had some very clear ambitions, but you were doing it in a unique, large scale. You're really attacking this from a very complex, wide-scaling approach. So I'm sort of curious, what, if you can give us some context on what the implementation entailed, what was maybe unique about the Keysight environment, and why that has relevance for the manner in which you were able to go about applying the technology here.
Okay, so clearly one of the things that we'll talk about in a moment is management of change. When we talk about the scale in which we were deploying this solution, and everyone's used to having the phone on their desk and they pick it up and they hang it up and everything's great. Now we're introducing something completely new where on your computer screens pop and people are able to pick up a call, and not only pick up the call, but see who's calling. This was a bit of a management of change for us to walk through. So for us, the way we approached it was such, we looked at the voice over capability, voice over IP capability, and really marketed that functionality to our contact centers and business centers worldwide. We spoke about the high availability of the environment, and when I talk about that, it's the ability of the solution to work within itself with the high availability servers that we have, so that if one server fails, it fails over to another, and if that one fails, it fails to another. So that's the high availability in each of our production environments that Sebastian will speak to in a moment. But in addition to that, we needed a failback capability in that if we have a data center that has a significant issue and we go into a catastrophic failure event on that server or within the data center itself, we need to be able to, quote unquote, keep the calls coming in. So with that in mind, we implemented a solution that allowed us to fail over to a completely different geography that has real-time mirroring of the current production environment, and we'll share that with you in a moment. We also have QA environments to test break fixes and also to test our upgrades of the contact center that need to take place in the future. And since deployment, we've already done several upgrades that went absolutely flawlessly because of how we're structured and deployed the solution. And the multiple production environments, again, that Sebastian will show you here in a moment, allows us to have a seamless customer experience every day, almost 24 hours a day. So from a sizing perspective, when we put this all together, what we're sharing today is Keysight Technologies specific. When we did this deployment, it was both for Keysight and Agilent. But what I'm going to share with you here is just Keysight. 700 plus seats worldwide and 30 or 40 different contact centers, 27 global sites in total, processing on average about 500,000 calls annually. From a deployment approach, clearly people were a bit nervous on what does this mean for me and how is this going to work. So we took our least complex geography and we started to build upon lessons learned from that geography. The very important piece here is to capture change requests and merge those into the build whenever possible, but closely manage your scope creep. This technology allows you to make very quick changes to IVR structures, and as the business began to understand how the solution worked, clearly they wanted to make minor modifications to IVRs to maximize that customer experience. We in IT know that when you start doing that, you tend to have scope creep, but we also didn't want to stifle our ability to maximize the solution, understanding that everything we were doing was customer facing and we needed that to work for the customer. So you have to maintain some flexibility, but manage it very tightly. Right for that.
Great. So as you alluded to, there was a science to this. It wasn't just we know it was big and we know it was very comprehensive and complex, but there was a way to, I think, make it more manageable and really expertly deploy the technology. So I'm gonna let you guys sort of walk us through that schedule right here.
Okay. So this is an example of how we built the solution, and I'll explain the resources we used to do this and why it worked for us so perfectly. I don't want people to get caught up in the time frame for each one of these events. So maybe business test was a little bit longer for some, or training was a little bit longer for some. We, in our environment, need to manage month-end close activity. We need to manage holidays within specific geographies, like Chinese New Year, for example, or in other geographies, it's Christmas and New Year's or shutdown. So don't get caught up too much on the length of time these activities took. What's important here is to understand how we did this build. We had a technical architect and a technical consultant. For each of these builds, we worked with ECENTA to identify the right resources to make this happen. So in Americas and Europe, they were running in parallel, and you'll see that the build for the Americas ended around the time that we started the Asia build. So we were able to roll off that technical architect and have that technical architect start building, and then a subsequent roll-off and roll back on to different phases. In total, we had over 20 different builds. This is showing 3. In total, we had over 20 different builds that we were able to leverage this model with very few resources from ECENTA, but recognizing that those were the experts that became familiar with our environment, how we managed our contact centers, and even how they began to learn very specific things about that geography as they continued to move forward. So this worked for us perfectly. In addition, we had, at the business level, key people identified to make decisions on how those IVRs looked, what they needed to look like in the future, and how we were going to engage with them as these builds and testing took place. And I believe the next slide, what we're going to see from Sebastian, if I'm correct, yes. So Sebastian Alvarez is going to walk us through some of the benefits of the contact center solution and how we in Keysight deployed it and how we're leveraging it. So I'll turn that over to Brian if he has any intro questions, and then Sebastian.
Yeah, so I think, obviously, we talked about how today's customer is empowered and how, the expectation level is really rising. And one of those ideas is certainly, this idea of, personalization, but that also, of course, has some ramifications on the internal side, because the more you know about your, your customer and the type of issue they're calling with, the more likely you are to be able to satisfy them in an effective, in an efficient manner. So I'm curious to know why, what the situation was with really kind of understanding customer information as it was coming in. How was this affecting the contact center? Why was this important?
Yep, thanks for the questions. So the key benefit here with the CTI integration was the call ID match. On your previous environment, it usually took from 30 to 60 seconds for the agent to identify the customer who was calling. This meant the customer had to be on the IVR for, I don't know, 1 or 2 minutes, and after he finally got to talk with a person, he spent 30 or 60 seconds in silence. If you multiply this by the amount of calls we get, this was about 6,000 man-hours per year that we were basically losing, right? With the new solution implemented, as soon as the agent accepts the call, we provide him in front of his screen a 360-degree view of the customer, so the agent can focus on his work and solve the customer needs. We call this process the 1, 2, 3 process. Basically, on step 1, the agent is notified that he's getting a call, and on step 2, he accepts the call, and on step 3, he can immediately start solving customer problems. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Yeah, no problem. So, again, keeping in this theory of, I think, really understanding information, another idea is, when you have existing cases and, people want to be able to, revisit those, that could potentially create a challenge if you don't have that information. So how did that sort of build into your focus here with this implementation, as well as some of the benefits you were seeing?
Yeah, as Larry said before, we serve different kind of customers and different kind of needs. And most of the time, or on most of our calls, the problems cannot be solved immediately. So for this at Keysight, we developed a solution called callback, where on the CRM system, the agents generate a unique identified number, right? Can be 1, 2, 3, 4, for example. And he say, okay, I need to do some paperwork, I need to do work on your equipment, and then call me back in 2 days and I'll have you an update. We don't want the customer to be on the IVR 2 minutes or 3 minutes again. So for this, we offer the customer the option to enter his number 1, 2, 3, 4, and we put the call with exactly the same agent who he was talking before, and in that way the agent is familiar with the customer and of course can solve the problem quickly. In the event the agent is busy at that time or he's attending another customer call, we offer the customer the option to leave a voicemail only for that agent, or we have a backup team that can take care of the problem from the IVR, from the CRM system, get all the information about the customer. So that's the key feature on the number callback. Avoid the customer to be on the IVR for minutes or maybe hours waiting for the problem to be solved.
So basically, it's about putting the customer in the driver's seat there, right? So they want to speak to the same agent. If they need to get it solved right away, that there are some other options. But in either case, the customer is never forced to sacrifice his own time and his own efficiency to accommodate the business. It's about putting the customer back in control.
That's exactly. I mean, our philosophy is customer is number one. So we want to make their experience as better as possible.
Great. And again, as you see there, that there was some performance improvement. Now, once again, keeping with this idea of routing, because I think it's so important that, there's so many different variables when a customer calls in that are going to affect, the quality of experience he receives. We addressed how it's important to know who the customer is when he calls. We addressed the importance of being able to go right back to the agent who was helping him previously. But there's another way that you guys route as well. You want to talk about the model number routing approach.
Yeah. Our contact center agents, right, are employees with very deep knowledge on different products, and they are specialized on different products. As Larry showed before, we have people in aerospace, we have people on oscilloscopes and different kind of products that we offer. And we don't want the customer to be talking with the wrong person, right? So at the IVR level, we offer the customer the options to enter their model number of the product they are calling about. If I want to talk with an agent about an oscilloscope, I enter 3456 as an example. The contact center system is smart enough that based on the number that the customer enters, we put the call on a queue with specialists on the oscilloscopes with the model number 3456. This feature was developed in a way that is a custom database that is maintained and allows us to keep contact and product knowledge expertise up to date on a very, very easy way. We can go to the database, maintain, saying, okay, I don't want this queue to, this model go to this specific queue. I want it to go to this other queue, and it's just a change that takes half a second to do. So we put the right customer talking with the right agent, basically, with this tool.
And then one of the things I noticed that you say that there's no rerouting needed. So basically, once they get to the specialized agent, that specialized agent is able to is a true expert and also empowered to, I think, give them the information, the solution they need, right? So it's not a case of where, yeah, this guy knows all the technology, but he can't do anything. They're going to an agent who truly can help them and who truly knows how to help them.
Exactly. They are deep specialists on the product, and they can do anything with the product. I mean, they know it from the top to the bottom. So they shouldn't be transferred to any other people or any other team.
Makes sense. And as you mentioned there, that's like a VIP experience. I think that it really speaks to this idea that you're really thinking about what the customer wants and making life easier for him.
Exactly.
Now, one of the things that we talked about, certainly we mentioned at the onset of the webinar that there's, an IVR functionality to this contact center solution. And certainly the IVR in many cases takes it on a bad rap. I think that a lot of people have some horror stories about IVRs. It has like some negative reputation in some respects. But as far as, your organization goes, I think you've come up with a way to really make it valuable for the customer and use it to the customer's advantage. So you want to sort of talk about, the IVR scenario and what flexibility you're able to espouse here.
Yeah, definitely. So as Larry said at a couple of slides before, right? I mean, in our own environment, we have like 5 to 10 options within the IVR that make the customer very frustrated trying to get to the right people. During the process of implementing the contact center, we optimize the IVR in a way that we only have up to 3 levels up to 2 levels in the IVR. So with 3 options, the customer can be talking with the right person. So as we are an extremely dynamic company, during the implementation of the contact center, we also had some change requests raised by the business. So we needed a tool that was flexible enough to work in one side, be working on implementing the solution, and another side allow us to do changes on the fly. We were able to manage over 250 configuration change requests while we were implementing the solution. This talk about a tool that allows a lot of flexibility. On the change that we were asked to do, right, was basically change the IVR setup on a very short notice because the business wanted to do the business on a different way. And when we did the company split, right, we had to change all the audio prompts with, I think was, if I'm not wrong, was 3-day notice that we had to change all the audio prompts in the solutions because we were no longer Agile and we were Keysight. So this talk about the flexibility that the tool can give us.
And how did you sort of understand, I think, what customers were looking for here? Because you mentioned the simplicity, but I mean, did you do anything to really understand, to make sure that you were simplifying it in the right way, in a way that was going to be valuable for the customer, not just maybe easier for the organization?
Yeah, well, it was a complete analysis of our entire IVR solution. We analyzed it at the business level, and after we had an idea on how can this be improved, we share it with the customers and get their feedback as well, because working together makes a difference, right?
Definitely, yeah, and I think that's key because, I mean, as you see there, when you look at the performance improvement, you see that there's, an estimated 30 to 60 seconds in savings per call. That affects both sides of the business, right? The organization benefits because its agents are being used more efficiently, the operation is running smoother, and it takes, less resources away. But it also benefits the customer because the customer now is spending less time and getting what they want. The IVR, instead of becoming that maddening, annoying experience where you feel like you're just being deflected away, it now becomes a tool to actually get better care. And that's really what self-service and IVR kind of tools are about. They're not always going to have the answer to your question, but they should get you the answer you want quicker. And it sounds like you guys were able to do that at Keysight.
Yep. Yeah, actually we can tell the customers on the previous system were 3 to 5 minutes just on the IVR before getting to the queue. From now, we moved that 3 to 5 minutes to 30 to 60 seconds. I mean, it's a huge improvement from the customer side.
Great. So, obviously those weren't the only benefits. I know that you in the interest of time, wanted to spotlight a few of them, but I'm curious, what some other benefits you've experienced, that really relate to improving the experience either for the customer or for the agent, or for both.
Yeah. Actually, we're able to improve both worlds, right? The agents and the customers. So sometimes, for instance, we have to close our IVRs because of weather conditions, holidays, or emergency situations. So we needed a tool that could give us the chance to close only one of the business units and allow us to continue operating on all other call centers without any interruptions, right? The good thing about SAP Contact Center is that this configuration is so easy to do. I mean, I can shut down an IVR without having any IT knowledge. So we train our regional contact center managers to do this. So in the event they have to close an IVR because of a weather emergency situation, they can go ahead and do it within 1 minute or 2 minutes. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, there was a typhoon in Taiwan, and the business was able to manage all the closure of the IVR in Taiwan only by themselves. So we're very happy with the flexibility of this tool. On the other hand, our contact center managers, right, need to know in real time the availability of the agents, because we need to know, okay, I have 20 agents in one queue, but I only have 3 on the other queues, and the queues are getting overloaded. So with the tool that SAP Contact Center gives us, right, the managers have the right or the privilege to move an agent from one place to another in real time and on a super easy way from a web tool. So this means, like, when moving the agents from one place to another, we have the customer waiting less time on the queues, and we can increase our service level by doing this. Another benefit that we were looking for was the call recording. In order to improve our contact center on a daily basis, call recording was a must. This will allow us to improve the agent's communication skills in the event we have a newly joined agent, right? But at the same time, it's a backup in the event that we have a problem with the customer and we want to retrieve that call and analyze it together. So the tool gave us the flexibility to choose if we want to record the queues at the agent level, at the queue level, or even we gave the agents the options to choose if they want to record a queue in order to troubleshoot any problem later. The only monitoring and reporting tool are very useful tools, and the only monitoring one gives us a picture on real time of what's happening on the IVR. I can log into our web page, right, and see, okay, I'm having 20 calls at the same time. I have a customer that has been waiting on a queue for 20 minutes, so I can take actions on it and make the customer's experience better. On the other hand, we have the reporting tool that gives us information of long periods of time. So as I have information about long periods of time, I can make long-term decisions accordingly and plan accordingly the next improvement for the call centers. For instance, I can see on the reporting level all the calls that I get in the year 2014. It will tell me, okay, I got 500,000 calls, right? From the same report, I can navigate and filter those 500,000 calls by month. And from the month, I can go to the week. And from the week, I can go to the day. And I can go to a granular point that it shows me all the calls, or the amount of calls that happened within 15 minutes. On another report, I can filter the calls, and if a customer calls me and tells me, hey, I spoke with an agent 2 years ago, then I need to know who was that agent, using that reporting tool will give me that information. So it's completely flexible and very useful in order to make decisions.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's key there that what's great about all those benefits is I think you really explained how they improve all sides of the experience. They make things better for customers and for agents. Mm-hmm. Now, I do want to move on to one important aspect, because we're talking about a technology refresh. So yes, it's easy to go on and on about all these different benefits for customers and agents, but I think what's really brilliant about what you guys did is also looking at it from a back end, the architecture standpoint, how you set it up in a way that I think is very wise, aware of what could go wrong in a contact center, and really thinking about how you can make sure that your contact center is actually able to realize all these benefits. So you want to sort of talk to us about how you have sort of the architecture set up and why this is so advantageous for today's businesses.
Yeah, as we said before, customer is our top one priority. So we cannot afford to have any IVR or contact center down. So we took advantage of a feature that the SAP Contact Center has that is called high availability. So basically, we have 3 application servers running on each data center, right? And if one of the application servers fails because X or Y reason, .2 application service can take the workload of that server that went down. At the same time, on the database, we have a database cluster. So if one of the database servers fails, the cluster will put all the workload on the server that is alive. In the event that we have a major issue on the data center or a catastrophe over there, right, we have something that we call DR systems. We are replicating our production environment in real time to our DR servers. We can take United States as example, right? United States is replicated in real time to our European data center. So in the event something happened to US data center that the servers are completely dead, in a matter of 2 or 3 minutes, we can be operating again in our European data center, and with the information that the agent had at the time of the failure. So with this approach, we are trying to make sure that we have our servers running up on time almost 100% of the time. Unfortunately, for India, due to very specific regulations for call centers, we cannot have DRs. So that's why India data center looks smaller than the rest of them, the other ones.
I mean, obviously, you put all this stuff together. It's a lot of cool features. You obviously have a smart, stable, secure back end. But, you know, at the end of the day, none of this really matters if it doesn't make life better for customers, right? All these features, better agent productivity, it means nothing, as you said, if the customer is not benefiting, because the customer comes first. So I'm curious to know what the impact was on customers and how you were able to arrive at the conclusion that it was successful.
So we were able to measure without any lack of data that the solution we have in place has made a difference. The survey, your most recent contact with Keysight Technologies, specifically asked the question of whether the customer, were getting to the right place quickly. And the question was asked of the contact center and business centers specifically. And with that, the worldwide average is 8.5 out of 10, which speaks directly to the solution that we deployed. So based on that feedback, we know how we deployed it, how we're managing it is yielding the results that we want to see as a company. Additionally, with the savings in that 1.5 minutes that the customers experience, we're able to save approximately 6,000 internal man hours per year as well, which allows us to serve more customers and allows the customers to be off the phone as well.
One of the things we promised, you know, was not just let's talk about these awesome benefits and let's talk about the results, but what some lessons and takeaways were. So, you know, obviously you have a lot listed here. I'll let you guys quickly walk through, you know, as you are making recommendations or looking towards, you know, the lessons you gained from actually doing this technology refresh. For those of you who are listening who might want to consider the same sort of thing, what do they need to know? You know, what were some challenges and what were some takeaways that you experienced?
So for us specifically, we knew we did not have the knowledge within our company to manage this deployment as we currently had it laid out. We contracted with ECENTA. We had a technical architect and a technical consultant for each one of those deployments that were consistent throughout the many builds that we had. We had key individuals peaked within the business itself and geographically to help manage the content within that specific region. So having those knowledgeable resources on your team ongoing is critical, at least for us, to the success of our deployments. Documenting those future states, what your IVRs need to look like, is just mandatory. Challenge the status quo, get those documented to maximize your customer experience, and let the build begin. Change management, as people began to understand what the solution could deliver, we began to receive more and more change requests. For us, we did not implement a hard freeze. What we did implement was a small database called a CCR, Configuration Change Request. All of those changes that came filtering in went into the CCR database. We looked at the business cases. We looked at the complexity of the request. And if they were easy enough, we incorporated. If they were large in nature, we determined when was the appropriate time to make those changes. But for us, having that CCR database, that small database that we managed, allowed us to process, as Sebastian said, well over 250 change requests as we built the solution without impacting our timeline, which was significant for us. Understand your geographic legal requirements. For us, it was understanding in India there is an organization called Other Service Providers that have very specific rules within the country that we must adhere to. And in Europe, the data privacy for employee data was critical for us to understand as well. So understand what that worldwide picture looks like for you if you're deploying this worldwide, what the legal requirements are within that geography so that you can build the solution accordingly. SAP best practices, standardize as much as possible. Your servers, have them all the same if you can. The software that your end users are using can potentially impact how the solution works. So if you're using Internet Explorer or whatever version, make sure it's tested and can work with the contact center solution. Headsets, be very clear to your users. You can't just go out and randomly buy multiple different headsets because it's the latest, coolest headset that's on the market. You need to test it and make sure that it works with the contact center solution, and SAP has those recommended headsets that will work. So utilize that information. And finally, it's engage your support teams early. These are the people who are going to take over the solution once you're in production and live with the environment. Bring them in during your calls on defect resolution. Have them hear how things are being resolved. So they're not getting a brand new solution and are completely unfamiliar with it. So engage them early and get them up to speed as quick as you can.
Great. So, we obviously are close to the end of the hour, but we do have a few questions that came through. And, I want to make sure that we, have a chance to get to those. Before we get to those, did you guys have any additional things, any of our speakers, anything that you want to share as we, prepare to part ways here?
So this is Larry. So for the key takeaways that we need to leave you with is don't underestimate your testing effort. Test, test, test. Again, you hear the stress in my voice. Make sure every one of your IVRs works during tests. Again, standardize your environment. And if you do have a disaster recovery environment like we did, while you're in your stabilization phase, test it. Fail over to those environments for a day. Make sure they work, so that everyone who's on the team, and it's all hands on deck, if in fact that disaster recovery doesn't work. The last thing you want is to find out it doesn't work when you actually need it. Solid business participation during your cutover. We did ours on the weekends. We did validations on Sundays. People came in, they tested all the IVRs. We were essentially live at that point, and everyone came into the office on Monday, and everything worked just about flawlessly. Early participation drives the adoptions and helps with deployment, so engage your business center contacts early, bring them into the fold, and recognize and plan for small change requests or modifications during your build and even during your stabilization. Prioritizing those customer external facing changes first to make that experience better for them.
Great. So the key question that we got, actually, we got a few variations of this, so it's, probably can kind of lump it into one question, and that is really about, can you talk about the integration capabilities of SAP Contact Center? I'd imagine a lot of people, certainly are, working off different platforms and are curious how well it integrates. So, Sebastian Jungels, do you have any insight into the integration ability?
Absolutely, yes. So SAP Contact Center, being an SAP solution, naturally and natively integrates with other SAP solutions, right? Predominantly, we have SAP CRM on-premise, and within that solution, the Interaction Center is basically the key modules that you would want to deploy in a call center environment. This gives you easy access to, your customer master record, historical information about service requests that have been put in, or work orders, and so forth. So the integration between SAP CRM on-premise and Contact Center is a really seamless experience. So the information that is coming in from the CTI adapter on this SAP Contact Center site puts the service center, call center agent into a position where the customer record is automatically determined. So as soon as you pick up the phone, and you're talking to the customer, you already know that person based on a phone number, or maybe this is an account ID that has been entered as part of the IVR process, and you can verify back that this is the right person you're talking to. You get instant access to your service history, service request information, and so forth. The same happens on the SAP Cloud for Customer side, where a CTI integration is also part of the standard solution scope. So you basically set it up, basic configuration, and you're good to go. With other non-SAP CRM systems, you can also leverage different connectors in order to integrate with your SAP Contact Center solution. So the Open API lets you to kind of develop a interface between those two systems and leverage all of the key benefits that we learned from Larry and Sebastian earlier.
Certainly. I want to, as we reach the end of the webinar, I want to first of all thank all our attendees for participating, as well as some of your great questions. Any that were lingering, I'll make sure to forward on to our speakers so they can, provide you with a personalized answer in the coming days. I also, of course, want to thank SAP and ECENTA, as well as Keysight, and all of our speakers today for what was very informative, because I think what was great here is that you showed how you can really take a contact center solution and personalize it to your experience as a business. What matters to your customers? What does your operation look like? What does your contact center need? But in doing so, you showed, I think, some very universalized results that will apply to everybody. The idea of making life easier for customers, better routing them to agents, improving productivity, creating a more secure and stable environment, and taking into account the various global regions, those are all extremely important. And I think you really showed how the solution can handle those, how Keysight made the solution work for its unique case, and how everyone listening can achieve success by pressing 1 for a better customer experience by leveraging a technology refresh. This has been Brian Kander with Call Center IQ. Thank you, and we'll talk to you next time.